Congress is on break as Indiana leaders return for the Thanksgiving holiday, but major issues are unfolding.
What is the cure, if there is any, for the Affordable Care Act?
Today, we're sitting down with Congressman and Dr. Larry Bucshon and Congressman Marlin Stutzman.
Will we get a budget in December, or are we going to look at another government shutdown?
We're addressing health care reform, the deal with Iran, and presidential politics, and then our political insiders on the search for a new state auditor. That and much more next on Indianapolis This Week.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Welcome to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. It is quiet right now in Washington, D.C. because lawmakers are home for the Thanksgiving break. But one of the biggest issues remains health care reform. According to the White House last month, the bugs in healthcare.gov website were supposed to be worked out right now, but remains a work in progress. Today, we're getting more perspective put on the healthcare reform rollout from an Indiana congressman who is also a doctor. Joining us now is Indiana Congressman Dr. Larry Bucshon. He's a Republican who represents Indiana's 8th District, covering southwestern Indiana. He's also a cardiothoracic surgeon, and his wife is also a physician. Welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
You are a doctor, one of the very few in Congress. What is the cure, if there is any, for the Affordable Care Act? It appears by the numbers to be working in the blue state of California, the red state of Kentucky to our south, and the purple state of Massachusetts. Can it really work across the country, or is there no cure for this thing?
Well, I think at the end of the day that it was the wrong approach for health care reform. We need dramatic health care reform. Obviously, it costs too much. Too many of our citizens didn't have insurance. But from a health care provider's perspective, my main concerns are going to be access to quality, affordable health care. Expanding the Medicaid program in some states is not a way to accomplish that. And I think I'm also concerned about the fact that we're going to have a devolution of the private health insurance industry. We're seeing that with the individual market policies being canceled, and next year possibly some of the employer-based health care insurance canceled. And then you add that on top of the fact that the cost on the exchanges at this point seems to be pretty high, not only for the premiums but the deductibles. So I don't know what's going to happen over the next year with the Affordable Care Act, but I do think there's going to be either a complete repeal with replacement and keeping some of the good things in the law, or substantial changes to the law, because in its current form, I don't think it works.
Is there a reason why it's working in some places and in others it is just not connecting? And this is beyond the website that's not working, right? We expect the website to work at some point in our lifetime, but right? But
yes, of course we do. But I think, honestly, I think it's it's what you consider successful. I think it's the definition of what's successful. I think, in California and other states, their exchange is not dependent on the federal exchange, and so I think state-based exchanges are doing a little bit better at this point. I'll be interested to see what the cost changes are over the next year and see whether it's still considered a success in some of these states. Look, I hope it is, if that's what the people of that state want as a form of health care reform. I just think on the national level, the Affordable Care Act is not the appropriate thing to do, but we need health reform. We need costs to come down.
You're one of the few folks, because you are a doctor and your wife's a doctor, so you actually know what you're talking about when it comes to Medicaid payments and how much you don't really get paid. What are some of the solutions that have to happen? What do you think can be done maybe 2014? If you can't get the repeal, what are some of the steps you can take to address the issue of access?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, as far as health care reform, we need price transparency in health care. And that's one of the biggest problems. Why we don't have the consumers helping get the cost of health care down is because consumers don't know what health care costs.
So are you talking about
I'm talking bigger picture.
Transparency, like when we go to the gas station and we see $3.29 a gallon?
That's exactly right.
Are you saying that we should put out there how much
I think
surgery?
I think at the end of the day, the American people should be able to understand what the costs are. And why has there been a disconnect? For a multitude of reasons, but it's third-party payers, so there's a disconnect between the patient and the services provided as it comes to cost. But I think, if you're going to give everybody access to health care, you got to get the cost down, not just give them an insurance card like Medicaid card, because that doesn't guarantee access. So getting more access, get the cost down. Price transparency, insurance reform across state lines. We do need some tort reform. We do need health savings account expansion, not contraction. And some of those things will get you on your way to getting the cost down. My official website also has a bunch of other ideas.
I like your issue of transparency, but with the lobbyist groups, will they really allow for doctors to post pricing? Is that something that the lobby would say, sure, we support that, or would the lobby say, no, our doctors can't put their pricing on the front door or on their website?
Well, what limits that historically has been antitrust issues related to the fear in the healthcare industry that there would be collusion and people would drive up the costs. I think those are not things that are applicable to today. There's actually laws that are in place that essentially prevent providers from telling people what they charge for fear of litigation. So we need to break down those barriers, and I think consumerism, so to speak, works in certain areas of healthcare, like plastic surgery, where people know what the cost is, like LASIK eye surgery, where people know what the cost is, and the market drives the pricing.
Two other hot topics I want to get through with you today. Iran. The president has made a deal with Iran. Can we trust that deal? Will Iran come through on that deal?
I don't think they will. I think, if you look back at the history of what the Iranian government has done and what they stand for, they basically don't like our way of life here in the United States. They have a fundamental disagreement with how we do things in the West, and I'm very skeptical that they'll come through.
Would you vote to increase sanctions on Iran?
I absolutely would. I think until the Iranians agree to discontinue all production of things that may lead to a nuclear weapon, then I would continue to put sanctions on them. And let me tell you, it's not just the West, it's not just Israel that's afraid of a nuclear Iran. It's the Arab nations in the region who also have pretty significant problems with a nuclear Iran.
Another big issue that you're concerned about is the issue of coal and new EPA regulations. Should we be concerned as we head into the winter that we'll see higher pricing because of federal regulations on coal?
Yes, we should. And looking out in the future, with the regulations on new coal-fired power plants that would require carbon capture and sequestration, which is not broadly available at this point commercially, closing down power plants, I think the future for Indiana and our low-cost power can be bleak if some of these rules and regulations go into place. The industry, the coal industry, my dad was a coal miner, so I understand it. They're constantly innovating to find easier ways and cleaner ways to burn coal. But, the current regulations aren't going to give them the time to adapt, and the technology is not in place to comply. So I'm seriously concerned about the future of coal-fired power here in Indiana.
On this Thanksgiving weekend, what are you thankful for?
Well, first of all, I'm thankful that I live in the greatest country on earth. But obviously, I'm thankful for my wife, my 4 children, and my family. My 2 sons will be coming back for Thanksgiving from college, and we'll be all together at the dinner table, and that's what's important. When it comes down to it, we talk about policy, we talk about politics, but it's about family. And I'm thankful that I have a loving family and 4 children that are going to be home for the holidays.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman Larry Bucshon. Thank you for joining us. Please come back again.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
You heard him. You'll come back then.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. After the break, our discussion of national issues continues, this time with Congressman Marlin Stutzman. We'll be right back. Much of the focus in Washington and across the nation is already turning to the midterm elections in 2014. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is now the chair of the Republican Governors Association. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal was just in Indianapolis this last week for a fundraiser, and Governor Mike Pence is being put in the spotlight by both men. Joining us now is Indiana Congressman Marlin Stutzman, a Republican who represents the state's 3rd district. He was elected to Congress in 2010, back home for the Thanksgiving break. You've been home now all week. You also are here to hear Bobby Jindal speak. What are the prospects for your party in 2016?
Well, I think they're very good, Rafael. I think that there's obviously a lot of excitement going into the 2014 election about our prospects in the Senate. We obviously have to have good candidates. So that's always the important part, and Bobby Bobby Jindal is bright, very articulate, has a great story to tell, and if he decides to run for president, he's going to be a great candidate and will give all of us Republicans a choice and someone to talk about.
How about a Chris Christie?
Chris Christie, I like his straightforwardness. He was actually here in Indiana for one of the GOP dinners a while back, and he and Mitch Daniels, Governor Daniels, had a great interaction, an exchange between the two of them, and I was surprised how well people responded to Chris Christie. I know there's obviously some friction over the 2012 election, but I think at the end of the day, Republicans are going to look for somebody who is going to help fix problems and can connect with people. That's the important thing. We have to find people who understand what it takes to connect and to also address the problems that we're facing and have ideas that are going to really make a difference.
We're looking at some major deadlines in the days to come. One of them is the Affordable Care Act. That computer system, the website, should be up and running here soon. Are you confident that that website will be up and running soon?
I don't know. I know they just continue to find more and more challenges with the website as they build it, as they work on it, and it sounds like they're still building parts of it. I actually tried to navigate myself through it. It took a lot of time. I don't know what this administration believes it has to accomplish before they can call it a success, but it's a long way to go, and I find it very unfortunate because people I hear from they're having insurance dropped and they don't know where they're going to go. They don't know what they're going to do, and so it's creating a lot of concern for Hoosiers.
Should we get a refund from the folks that put this together? I mean, the IT companies, the people who we paid millions upon millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Should taxpayers get a refund for that work?
Something should happen. I mean, there should be demands made. I mean, with this website.
Will you make the demands, and you represent a chunk of the constituents of Indiana? Will you say, hey, where's the refund?
Yeah, I think that, as we see how this unfolds and how this all works itself out, we'll know a lot more within 2 months what the taxpayers paid for, because the website cost us roughly $600 million. A
lot of money.
A lot of money. And if you can't get it done for that amount of money, something's wrong. We need a new vendor.
Another big deadline coming up is the discussion of the budget before we get into more budget talks in January. Will we get a budget in December? Or are we going to look at another government shutdown?
No, I don't think we're going to be looking at a government shutdown. We're going to have to find a way for Republicans and Democrats to find agreements. And Republicans have a lot of places where we can say, hey, you know what? We're in a position where we're cutting spending. We're in a position where we are under certain numbers that we wanted to keep spending limited to. And I think we're also we have to realize that as the Affordable Care Act continues to roll out, that there has to be a focus to getting this done right, and sooner rather than later. I do not want a government shutdown to begin with. I think that it just shows an irresponsible lack of leadership, and so or irresponsible leadership. And so, as we get through the holidays, my hope is everybody comes back to Washington and says, "Hey, you know what? We're not providing the American people the leadership and the service that they need. We have to find a way to get through this, and it's going to be tough. But you know what? That's what we're there for.
Your party took the hit for this, though.
Yeah,
Rami, your
I
party,
think we did.
You took the hit as well.
Yeah.
So how do you get around that? Because obviously it was your speaker who said, if we can't get something done on this Affordable Care Act, it's going to shut down.
Yeah, I don't believe that we were the ones that shut it down, but I do believe that we were the ones that took the blame for it. Because and a lot of it was because of our opposition to Obamacare, and with the when going into October, I saw how hard Speaker John Boehner tried to find a place where he and Harry Reid could agree, and it just didn't seem to happen. And so going forward, we learned a lot of lessons. I don't think anybody enjoyed it. If they did, something was wrong with them, because that's not what government's supposed to do. Government is supposed to work for the people, and not to be shutting down over philosophical disagreements, we have to find a way. And so now that we know what is happening with the rollout in the healthcare law, I think that's going to change the tone in both the Senate and in the House, because we cannot keep going and letting people have this type of uncertainty.
The other big issue before we wrap up is the issue of Iran. Should we trust that there will be a deal with Iran? Can we really trust that they will actually not build nuclear weapons?
Boy, trust is the big word there. And, you know, watching what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying about the deal causes me a lot of concern. You know, our goal here should have been to try to put Iran in a box and not put Israel in a box. But that's exactly what's happened. Israel is now feeling like they are being squeezed in this situation. And you know, they're the ones that live in that neighborhood. I mean, they have to live under the fear of rockets being attacked on them by Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda. And they also have to worry about a nuclear Iran that could eventually develop nuclear capabilities and launch a nuclear weapon. It would be horrible. We don't even want to think about that, and that's why this deal is such a big deal, because we got to make sure that Iran does not have that capability.
So is it a good deal or a bad deal?
I think it's a bad deal.
It's a bad deal.
It's a bad deal.
It is Thanksgiving weekend. What are you most thankful for on this Thanksgiving weekend?
Well, I'm thankful for my family, my wife Christy, my two boys Peyton and Preston. They're just the joy of my life, and that's why we do what we do, whether it's providing for their family or just to make sure that our country is as strong and as great as it's always been.
Congressman Marlon Stutzman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come back again.
Thank you. Will do.
After the break, we are sitting down with our political insiders and their debate on the resignation of the state auditor. It's time for our political insiders, Democrat Kip Tu and Abdul Hakim Shabazz. With IndyPolitics.org, the governor will have to find a new state auditor.
Yes, he will. If he'd have done the proper vetting, maybe he wouldn't have had to. It's a black mark for the governor that after 4 months, his pick has resigned under somewhat mysterious circumstances.
Well, I don't think they're mysterious. They are what they are. You know, it's personal and family. And, you know, we accept that. I don't think the governor will have a hard. I don't think the governor will have a hard time finding a candidate. He had a multitude of candidates to pick from the first time around. I'm sure most of those people who haven't moved on to go do something else will be more than happy to take the job. Representative Tom Saunders, who actually was a county auditor, I believe. Mike McQuillan, City Council Minority Leader. Jillian Lung Battle works at Public Employee Retirement Fund. He's got a good swath to pick from. They will all serve admirably to replace Dwayne Sawyer.
We're now going to have two people sitting in office who took office as Republicans because the prior person left under a cloud, Charlie White and now Mr. Sawyer. So I think that the voters of Indiana need to take a hard look at what's going on inside the Republican Party.
It's not fair to equate Mr. Sawyer with Charlie White, is it?
No. Well, they both left under a cloud.
Well, but Charlie White left under like a felony indictment. There's absolutely nothing criminal about Dwayne Sawyer's.
We don't know. I mean, the governor won't say what happened.
There's nothing criminal about Dwayne Sawyer's departure. There's no misfeasance.
But better for this to happen in 2013, right, than in the middle of a campaign in 2014. Whatever it is, or however this
certainly it is. That's why he's gone, because they didn't want to go into the election with whatever it is, because they won't tell us what it is.
I've seen campaigns where you've had to shift sort of midstream because your candidate had to leave or something happened. So you're right. If you aren't going to do it, now's the time to do it, and then 2014 start anew. But then again, the question is, anyone ever heard of Mike Claytor? No, because
I've heard of Mike Claytor, and I think he's the first guy that's actually an accountant who may be running for the office, who maybe help us find all the missing money that's happened under the last administration.
The other big issue, the governor did meet with the superintendent of public instruction, Glenda Ritz. The issue of education policy, will they be able now to get along? There's been so much controversy.
Well, it is the holiday season, so maybe sometimes the spirit of Christmas will move and get people to talk to each other. At the same time, though, I mean, I think Glenda had no choice but to sit down and meet with the governor, because right now she's batting 0 for 3. The walkout/adjournment of the state board meeting, the losing in court over public records, and the Public Access Council saying, hey, the board did not break the law. I mean, you're kind of 0 for 3 right now, so you better do something to salvage your career before lawmakers come back.
Well, I don't think she's 0 for 3. I think the Public Access Counselor said that what they did, they shouldn't have done. Whether they technically broke the law or not, he decided that they didn't. But the problem here is they took an action without the board chair, which is unprecedented, and they did it in a rolling email, which is also unprecedented, which rightfully lots of ed board boards across the state said is not the way to conduct meetings, and it's not the way to conduct meetings. They ought to be up front and above board. If you watch the last state ed board meeting, you'll notice that she adjourned the meeting because she was being badgered after she said, I'm going to take this issue to the Attorney General. They kept badgering her. She said, okay, we're adjourning the meeting. We can't function because you guys won't move on.
Well,
she was more than She was more than willing to bring that issue up at the next meeting. She said, I want to take it to the Republican Attorney General, and they kept badgering her. They wouldn't move on in the agenda. She had no other option. So she's 2 for 3 as far as I'm concerned.
I will say my Democrat friends have trouble counting, so we'll just leave it at that.
Let's leave it on a good note. On this Thanksgiving weekend, what are you thankful for?
Well, I'm very thankful for my family, that they're happy and healthy. 2 of my older kids aren't going to be with us this Thanksgiving, unfortunately, because they're overseas or in Boston, but we're going to wish them well and wish everybody out there a happy Thanksgiving as well.
Always thankful for the lovely Mrs. Shabazz and the fact that I get to come here on Sunday mornings and prove my good friend Kip 2 wrong and give him an opportunity to study a little bit harder the next time around.
They really do love each other, even on Thanksgiving. I hope you guys
a strong word.
I hope you guys can share over some leftovers. A little mashed potato, a little turkey.
Turkey and Swiss sandwiches, I'm good to go.
We want to thank our political insiders. You can catch them on their Twitter handles throughout the week. Indianapolis This Week continues right after this. Mary Cheney, the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, will be in Indianapolis this month to fight a proposed amendment banning gay marriage. Cheney will be at a fundraiser for Freedom, Indiana on December the 11th. Tickets for the event range from $30 to $5,000. 2 weeks since the devastating tornado's outbreak, many Indiana towns and cities continue to recover. If you would like to help, you can make a donation to the Red Cross. You can reach them by phone by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS or online at redcross.org. And the RTV6 Toy Drive is in full swing. We continue to collect toys for kids and families in need in central Indiana. Join us on December the 12th on Monument Circle for an all-day drive-through donation. We will be collecting toys on the Circle from 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. on December the 12th. We thank you for your support. That's it for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. I'm Rafael Sanchez. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.